presentation, we shall look into the basic design elements. At least 6 basic design elements are combined by modern editors to lay out pages in newspapers. They are display type. It is used mostly for headlines. The body type is used for the body copy. Borders or rules. Open space, which is otherwise known as white space, is also an element of design. Art, which includes photographs, illustrations, and information graphics such as maps, graphs, and charts, etc. Color is also used as a design element. Along with these basic elements of design of page layout, editors also use video and sound for their websites. We shall now look into each of the elements of design one by one. Before going to the display type and the body type, an understanding of type size will be of advantage. What is a type size? A type size is the distance between the top of the long upstroke over letters like B, D, H and L and the bottom of the long downstroke below the letters J, P, Q and Y. The long upstroke over the letter is known as an ascender and the long downstroke below the letter is known as a descender. The basic units of measurement of type are pica and points. Typefaces are measured in points while the width of the column is measured in pica. A point is 1/72 of an inch while a pica is 1/6 of an inch. This will help us understand display type and body type better. We shall now look into the display type. What is a display type? Type sizes of 14 and above 14 point are known as display type. We find the display type in headlines of newspapers. Headlines usually range from 14 point type to 72 point type. At times, when an extraordinary story happens, newspapers use headline types that are larger than 72 point type to indicate the unusualness of the story. The type size of the headlines indicate to the readers the relative importance and relative significance of each story that appear in the newspaper, apart from summarizing the news for the readers. As a typographic device, headlines introduce large areas of black and white to give the page the visual interest. The most noticeable display type is the nameplate. Selection of typeface for headlines has to be done with caution as they should be legible. Legibility is the ability to read them with ease. Headlines generate great visual interest into the newspapers. This is the front page of the Hindu newspaper. The nameplate is the most noticeable display type on the front page. The other display type are the headlines. This is an inside page of a newspaper. Here we notice the display type of different type sizes. This is a headline that has been taken from the page that was shown in the previous slide. Research on legibility indicate that type set in all caps or uppercase is not as easy to read as type set in capital and lowercase letters. Therefore, the all caps headline type is not used mostly. We become aware of it as we read through the headlines set in different style. We shall now look into the body type. Type sizes below 14 points are known as body type. Most of the body copy are often set in 8 or 9 point body type. Each consecutive line has a 1 point leading. Leading is a space between two consecutive lines. Most newspaper pages are set in 8-column format. The columns usually are set on a 12 to 14 pica measure. This facilitates optimum readability. A too tight and a too loose letter and word spacing makes reading difficult. The columns in newspapers are formatted as justified text. It means that their body type is set both flush right and flush left. This gives an organized and crisp look to the copy. However, few newspapers do set their body type ragged right. Some of the newspapers employ it for a story or two. When it is ragged right, the copy lines up evenly on the left but has irregular space at the end of the lines on the right. While deciding on the type for body type, care should be taken to see that the type is legible, where the reader is able to read every letter and word comfortably. This is a story that has been taken from the Hindu newspaper. This story has set the body type ragged right. The readability factor is also applicable to the body type. A too tight or a too loose letter and word spacing makes reading difficult. We understand this while reading through a content that has a too tight or a too loose letter and word spacing. We shall now look into borders as a design element. Publications use a variety of borders to separate one page element from that of the other. Most advertisements are boxed and some of them with ornamental borders. We also notice that some stories are also boxed. They are usually with simple plain lines called rules. Rules and borders are produced in varying widths and styles. 1 point and 2 point rules are mostly used. However, we can see that some publications do use heavy rules that are 6 point or 12 point rules. Rules are also used to box photographs and artwork or for kicker headlines. They also are used as design elements for page headers like city page, world news, sports page, etc. Here we see rules of varying widths and styles. In the following two slides, I've used borders of varying widths and styles to box the story and the photograph. Borders with varying widths. Different styles of borders are used to box the story and the photograph in this slide. Open space. Open space is otherwise known as white space. It helps in achieving the unity of design. Consistent amount of white space are used between columns of type. The white space between two columns are referred to as gutter. There is white space between photographs and their captions. White space is visible above and below the headlines, between the headline and the byline. It is also visible between the byline and the first para of the story. They are used to relieve large quantities of gray type. White space is a good design technique that is employed in a type-heavy editorial pages by using liberal amounts of open space on such pages. Open space is also employed as a border around the page. Some newspapers use more open space as elements in certain sections than in others. It is usually seen in arts and entertainment sections of the newspaper, thus differentiating them from the news sections. We see white space between columns of type, white space above and below the headlines, between the headline and the byline, between the byline and the first para of the story. Here we can see that white space is used to separate the two photographs in the same story. Here, the editorial page and the op-ed page are text-heavy pages. We can see the use of open space in these text-heavy page. Art. Art includes pictures, illustrations, and graphics like maps and charts. Art is also the starting point for laying out the page for most layout artists. Of late, we find that art is more often used than it has been earlier. It draws the attention of the readers to the page and to the story in particular. The visual element helps to understand the story better. Graphics simplify the story by presenting them in a very comprehensive manner. The shape of the art helps determine the layout. Most art requires reduction or enlargement before it is published, as they have to fit in the space that is available. The layout artist is the one who determines the size of the art. The quality of pictures and illustrations, however, are not compromised at any given point in time, and the use of them requires special attention. An example of art that includes map and information graphics. The photograph and graphic art add vigor to the story and also breaks the heavy text body type. Aesthetically taken photograph by itself is an element of art. Color. The element of color is regularly used as an element of design in newspaper layout for photographs, illustrations, graphics, lines, borders, etc. They draw the attention of the reader. Each individual responds differently to each color. The individual's response depends on various factors. The factors are age, gender, socioeconomic background, etc. Color is available as spot color and full color. Spot color is an extra shade of ink that is used along with black. Full color, also known as process color, is a combination of 4 color inks. The 4 color inks are cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. They are more commonly referred by the letters C, M, Y, and K respectively. Color also plays a role in the legibility of the content. Color is not used for the sake of using color. Rather, there is a purpose for each color that is being used. The easiest to read is black on white, as the contrast of these two colors is the highest. Color is always better to attract the reader's attention rather than black and white. However, Black and white images are better for response requiring more thought. Color photograph and the color in the tabulation column grabs the attention of the reader to the story which would have otherwise gone unnoticed. Here, the display type is a heading for a particular section, and this display type is in color. The elements of design are combined together to lay out the page and enhance reading. Understanding the elements of design is essential, and using them aptly is crucial. Newspapers should enable readers to read them with ease and interest. Hope this session has enabled you to understand the elements of design, which are display type, text type, white space, borders, art, and colors that are used in newspaper layout, and also help appreciate the efforts that go in making a newspaper interesting and informative.